Howdy again, fellow hunters, outdoor enthusiasts, and friends from the mountain country. Welcome back to In the Wild Outdoors with Brenn and Jesse. I am co-host, singer-songwriter, big game hunter, and sometimes hunting guide Brenn Hill of Hooper, Utah. Here with co-host, bush pilot, hunting guide, owner-operator of Saddlehorn Outfitters, Jesse Tatman of Daniel, Wyoming. And again, we bring you all things pertaining to the West, and particularly big game hunting. This is In the Wild Outdoors. Oh, brother, have I been looking forward to this episode. Actually, these two episodes. We have some pretty legendary folks here. You have some cool friends.
Yeah. These are two of my dearest friends. We go back a long ways. We've had some really good adventures. Me and Alysha's known each other a long time, and then I met Randy through Alysha, and me and Randy's been on some pretty fun trips.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah, and of course I hear about these guys through J.T. Wolf and Dason Ward. And so I'm so glad to be finally meeting him. We are going to interview your friend Alesha Melton, who sold the business to you, I guess, a couple of years ago.
Yes.
That's how you got into Saddlehorn Outfitters. She is a big game hunter. She's a guide herself. She's a horsewoman, a rancher, the granddaughter of legendary outfitter Lonnie Jackson, who we've talked about a lot on this show, and the co-owner, the second half, the better half of Flying J Outfitters. Welcome, Alesha Melton.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you. But yeah, you have a great reputation as an ambassador of for women in the sport of hunting, and I think that title comes well earned because you've had some adventures.
That I have, and they're not done, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah. How'd you get involved with it? How'd it start for you?
Well, my grandpa, who we talked about, he started Flying J Outfitters in about 1970. So I grew up outfitting. That's just what I did. It was kind of, I took to it. All of my siblings and my cousins all had the chance.
Yeah.
But Grandpa raised mules, and so we always had animals around. And when he started his outfitting business, he started using his mules for the outfitting. And so I grew up doing it, and I just kept doing it. And it's kind of morphed into something bigger than what it started, as most things do. But I'm still outfitting and guiding. So, yeah.
Were you his favorite?
Well, I'm not going to say that I was, but I was with him all the time. I mean, ever since I was a little teeny kid, I went everywhere with my grandpa, everywhere, whether it was in the truck or on a horse. So we had a pretty close relationship, Yeah,
I can only imagine what it was like in those days, and riding with a guy like that was, and he's your grandfather, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually, the first time I ever met Alysha was in Rock Creek at the lodge.
Right.
When your grandpa interviewed me.
Right.
Kind of to start working for him, and that was 1995 or something. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was about 95.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. But she was in there. There was kind of the cabin that we were in anyway. You had I guess it's the bar kind of thing where you signed everybody up. That you remember? And that's where I met her the first time when I went in there looking for her grandpa. Yeah, and the Forest Service sent me up there to talk to him. Like I was.
Yeah.
I went into the Forest Service in Duchesne and asked, who the outfitters were I was looking for work, and they sent me to Rock Creek.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
You grew up in Vernal Valley also?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Bridgeland. That's still where I live right now. I went to school in Roosevelt, so the Uintah Basin.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up.
Yeah. I think the Uintah Basin and Vernal Valley, some of the toughest folks that I know, the hardiest folks I've ever known, have come from that neck of the woods, and they all seem to be pretty connected to land and livestock, and everybody hunts.
Yep.
It's just part of the culture there.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you remember what your first hunting trip was?
Ooh, man, I don't remember my first hunting trip, but I'll tell you, I remember my first time that I was turned loose to guide somebody for the very first time. I was 15, and we were running the roadless book cliffs hard. And back then, you could buy an over-the-counter general season deer tag for down there. And so by the time we started down there in deer season and ran through our elk season, we were there, 67 days straight. Never came out of the book cliffs. And it was on one of those trips that Grandpa turned me loose with my first hunter, and I was 15. And Grandpa says, you know the country, take him over there. And, he told me where to go and where to set up. And that stuck with me because I had been in there for so long. Even at 15, I had a lot of experience at 15. So, but previous to that, even as a real young kid, we used to go to another area of the book cliffs as well. And some of my fondest memories are staying in an old cabin, hunting with my family. And we always made a big deal of hunting. It was a big to do. Everybody would get together. You'd take time off work. You'd get out of school for the whole season. And your teachers just knew it. When hunting season came, half the kids were gone. Yeah. That's how it used to be.
They used to schedule those 2-day teacher prep days before the opening of deer season here in Utah.
Yep.
Yeah, when we were all kids,
Yeah. Yeah, it was different times back then. The dynamic has sure changed, but that used to be the way it was.
Yeah. And some folks, I think, maybe wouldn't understand. The book cliffs are this extremely desolate, half of it is wilderness, still, and accessible only by horseback. In center of Utah, it's a dry country, kind of on the eastern side, and just rough, just rugged,
it is.
Tough country.
A lot of it butts up against the tribe.
Yeah.
The Ute tribe land.
It does. Yeah, it's probably my favorite place in the world. I love the book cliffs.
Yeah.
I'd rather go there than France or anywhere else.
Yeah, me too. For sure, than France. So what kind of critters were you after in those days? And the book cliffs have buffalo.
They do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been going to the book cliffs. I do not think I've missed a year of my life in the book cliffs. Wow. My grandparents took me, my parents alongside them when I was little. Little. I mean, I turned a year old at 11,000 feet, in a camp. So I have been down there my whole life, and it has been a lot of fun to see it change. Some of the changes weren't the best, but some of them were.
Yeah.
Back then, in the 80s, 90s, we were hunting really nice mule deer, really nice bulls, and then, of course, we done the cow hunt as well. And now we got the buffalo. And so I think that first time that I ran into buffalo down in there was in, I want to say 2012, when I personally seen them for the first time, probably. And it was neat to see. It really was neat to see. There's not a lot of places that you can leave your house, get in a truck, drive to a trailhead, get on your horse, and in a day, literally a day, you can see elk and deer and bear and buffalo and wild horse and coyotes. Load your horse back up and be home that night.
Yeah.
And that is an area that you can do that in. Yeah. And so it's a really unique area, and it's just got, I just got a feel about it when you're there. It's hard to explain to people that don't know, that haven't ever had that feeling, I guess. But the book cliffs is one of the places where when you're there, it's just a feeling that it's a really special place for sure.
Where you grew up, you got the book cliffs south of you. You got the Uintah mountain range to the north of you, the east slope, and the north slope of the Uintah is pretty rough, tough country, and
Yeah.
your granddad, he guided in there also and outfitted
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. Which is where Jesse met him, was running on that south slope of the Uintas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another mountain that I've been on all my life. That's a rock pile. There's no dirt in that mountain.
Randy always says that's the rockiest mountain I've ever been in my life.
Oh, Randy.
You can't make a horse track there. You can
Yeah.
scratch some rocks, but you can't
Yeah,
make a track.
yeah, you would definitely
Yeah,
wear
it's-
shoes out in the Uintas.
Oh, yeah. Randy, when we first started dating, he was going to come with me on a trip to the Uintas, and I said, make sure your horse is shod, freshly shod. And he's like, well, yeah, I live in the Rockies, because he's coming from Colorado. And I said, okay, and he gets there, and then he rides it. He's like, my word. I said, I told you it was rocky.
The only place that I would
rocky.
put close to the Uintas is the Owyhees. Is that lava rock there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a rock pile. But it's, that's a neat mountain range, too. It's a unique mountain, completely different than the Book Cliffs. I mean, it's not I wouldn't even compare the two. They're not comparable, in my opinion. But that's a neat place to go to.
Yeah.
Fishing is just absolutely
Fishing is
pristine
great.
in the Uintas. Oh, there's some of the glacier lakes up there. It is like the water is almost turquoise. Huh?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and so much of it is so beautiful.
Right.
And the fishing is phenomenal. Like if you
Right.
can't take a fly rod or something out there and catch a fish,
We have elk hunters that we have to remind them that they're on an
Yeah.
elk hunting trip.
They forget what they're there for.
Go hunting. You can fish tomorrow.
yeah.
Yeah. There's moose, a lot of moose in the country I'm running now, and I know that you are trying to draw that moose tag.
Yeah, I
Still?
have like 30 points.
I know. I know. Well, if you can ever draw it.
I think it's for Jesse. It's having time to hunt after he does draw it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's the problem
But the
with
good
any
thing
of
is
us.
with these guys having a camp in there, I mean, they're there, they know. You know,
And,
so
and the
that
moose are
helps
at the
me.
camp.
And that helps me a lot,
Speaking of, when Randy and you were dating, I'm just trying to imagine what's a Randy and Alysha date like? That's a horse ride or something, probably, right? Or,
Oh, it's the funniest thing. I get people that ask me, what do you do in your off time? We don't have off time. We're
Yeah.
running 60 head of horses and mules. Our life is a constant, everyday job. You don't have off time. But when people ask, what do you do for fun? We ride without dudes.
Yeah.
That's what we do for fun. We ride without people with us.
Go
We
work
go out
cows,
and work
too.
cows, or we,
Hitch up a wagon.
we ride.
yeah.
It's a way of life. It's not a job
Yeah.
or a passion. It's just a way of life. It turns into just your way of life.
How did you guys meet?
Well, the outfitting world's not a real big world.
Yeah.
I mean, it really isn't. There's a lot of outfitters around, but someone always knows someone who knows someone, you know? And I was outfitting here in Utah, and he was an outfitter in Colorado. And I, one year, was just desperate for guides. I just had overbooked, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Somebody calls for a hunt, and we book it, and then we try to figure out how we're going to do it later, you know? And so I called people who said, well, this guy might be able to help you, and this guy might be able to help you, and I got a hold of him, and he did. He actually sent me some guides for that summer. It was a summer trip. I was looking for fishing guides. And then, and so we had met by phone, and then we just stayed in contact, and then his outfitting partner and him split ways, and so he was kind of looking for work, and I was looking for a summer packer, and he came to Utah, and I kept him.
Yeah.
I imported him from Colorado. So.
She wanted me for my tack.
I did. I wanted him for his tack. I liked his tack. In fact, I took quite a bit of it when I married him too.
Yeah.
I took some reins and bridles and some things that I liked.
That, by the way, you say things like that in front of a songwriter, and it could.
Well, it's a true story.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't deny it. I took quite a bit of his tack.
It's just an awesome. Seems like for lack of better words, a match made in heaven. For you guys, you love the
Yep.
same stuff, and
Yep.
yeah, obviously both of you guys are characters, and perpetuating the lifestyle and the culture. Which I know for Jesse and I, that's part of the reason, we're doing this is to help tell the story of guys like you that are doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think your view of our future as outfitters and the hunting world? Because the changes that's coming in Utah and like we were talking about earlier about the changes in Idaho, and it's getting harder all the time.
It's getting harder every year. I honestly foresee this being a dying culture. What we're doing, I don't see it lasting. I just, because of the not for lack of people that want to do it, but for lack of how to make it happen. Not only is the hunting getting harder, the tags are getting harder. You got more people in the field. But even my summer business, people are, I don't want to use the word lazy, but people just don't want to work that hard to have that much fun anymore. They don't want to get on the back of a horse and ride for 3 hours to stay in a tent to fish. So I've seen the decline, especially over, I would say, since I've been in the business my whole life, I've really seen the decline over the last 20 years, but I can even put another marker on it for the last 10 years. And I foresee it continuing to decline.
And then that wildfire just hammered you guys a couple of years ago. I mean, you had some of the most beautiful, that Moon Lake rides you guys had were just...
Right. And
I haven't been able to ride it with you guys or been up there since it burned. I think the last time I was there was the year that it did burn. I come and seen you guys at the trailhead.
Right.
Hagen and I drove up there. And And I think that's the same fall that it burnt that fall, I believe. Right.
It was.
We actually had some hunters or some fishermen on a fishing trip at Lightning Lake the day of the fire started.
Right, and but it burned all the way till the snow put it out. Correct, that fire day.
Yeah.
It got into that steep country, and the fire actually was put out by the snow. Right.
Yep, it burned.
So,
and it burned. I mean, every piece of it that burned was my permit. Every piece of. I mean, it burnt my whole permit.
East to west, north, south.
I remember. It was.
But now say the challenge is, so that fire was 2020 is when the fire hit. When the fire hit was 2020. But the last 2 years, I haven't been able to use the trail up Brown Duck Basin for the last 2 years because of the fire, because of the mudslides now that have caused. So it's not just the year that the fire happens. You get these trickle down effect.
Right, because it kills all the underbrush, and then nothing holds the mountain side back, and pretty soon everything.
So the mudslides come and it takes out your trail system, and now there you are. And especially in that rock pile, right? Because what's it going to take the trail out with more rocks?
What year was it? Was it 18 when I took those archery hunters into Lily Lakes? Do you remember? And that microburst blew all them trees over.
Oh my gosh.
And trapped us in there, and I had to leave them in there, and me and Cub come out and got chainsaws.
17 or 18, I can't remember.
It was right there somewhere, man. That was a deal. It would just blew every tree over on the whole freaking mountain.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah, that one guy was in fear of his life by the fire.
Yeah, it was a deal. But,
Yeah, you just don't know what, I mean, and not only, when you're in the backcountry like that, not only do you not know what Mother Nature is going to throw at you, you don't know what, the animals are going to throw at you. I was in the backcountry. Remember that buffalo got me, and
I was going to ask you to tell that story to everybody because it's amazing. You need to tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was in the roadless. We were hunting spikes. And, we always hunt that country till dark and ride back in the dark. It's just, you can't get back when the elk are out, right? You've got to be hunting them when they're out. So, and there's buffalo down there, and we know it. And I respect those buffalo. I have a healthy respect for those buffalo. I always have. It's just, you don't mess with an animal that big. And we're riding back to camp, and I had 3 clients with me. And they were all 3 older gentlemen. And all of a sudden, and it's dark. It's dark. There was no moon out that night. And my horse just stops, and you can just feel, you can just feel him. There's something in front of us, and he's just dead in his tracks. And I'm like, oh, we got something in front of us. So I start yelling and screaming, and I know it's a buffalo. And this stinking buffalo, everybody behind me is like, what's going on? They didn't see it, and they didn't know. And this buffalo just looks at me, and he just lifts his head and just comes straight through us. just straight through us. And I mean, he came down the trail, and it's a big wide canyon, and we're going down the trail and he's going up the trail, and he just came through us and just picked us off. Toom, toom, toom. And all of us hit the ground. We were all we were all in the middle of the night, dark, and the only thing I think of is my people, because that's what you're concerned for. I mean, you're always concerned about your people, always. Yeah. So I pick myself up, and I'm hurt, and I go running back to my guys, and I, start finding them because they're all over the place, and I'm still wondering where the stinking buffalo is. So anyway, I go find my first guy. And I said, "Can you just sit here? Are you okay?" And he says, "I don't think I can get up." And I said, "Well, let's just sit here and just stay right here. And I'm going to go down the trail and I'm going to find my next guys." So I did, and I picked everybody up, and I got everybody back together in a group. And the last hunter because our horses took off. We didn't have our horses either. The last hunter happened to hang on to his horse because by the time it got to the buffalo got through us and back to the back of the pack, his horse was just kind of a lazy little turd anyway, so he's just back there taking his time. He kept a hold of his horse, so he had his rifle. I was like, "Get your rifle off your horse and stay here," because I was a mile from camp. I said, "I've got to go get help because I can't. Now my guys are hurt. They're on the ground. They can't get up." I said, "I can't do anything here by myself. I'm hurt too." So I went to leave, and I said, "Keep your rifle and stay here. I don't know where that buffalo is." And I had that horse behind me, and I had my hand on my side because I was hurting, and I had my flashlight in my hand and the lead rope in my hand. Well, I went to leave, and that horse tried to walk up on me, and I swung like this to hit him with that lead rope to just kind of tell him to get off of me. And when I did that, the flashlight goes like this, and that buffalo was right there.
Gosh.
Like literally right there. And so I yell back at the guys, "The buffalo is right here. Like he's coming right at you." And I take another 20 steps, and I hear boom. And I yell, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And they said, "Yes, we're fine, but I think I shot the buffalo." And I was like, "Okay, just keep your gun out, pay attention, and I'm gonna keep going." And so I finally got up the trail a ways, and I had a sidearm, and I shot my sidearm the 3 times distress signal. And pretty soon I see Randy with the flashlight coming down the trail because he heard my shots. And he gets up to me, he goes, "What happened?" I said, "We shot a buffalo." And he goes, "What?" "You what?" I said, "I think we shot a buffalo." But it was a scary deal, and I felt so bad for my guys. And they got him back to camp. I worked my way to camp, and all of the guides was already in camp, so they came and got everybody gathered up and got us all back to camp. And then the next morning, Randy rode out and called, and they had 2 life flights land there for the 2 guys. And it was. But that buffalo. He was big. He was a big buffalo. It was just a shame. It was a shame that but when he shot him, he was 15 feet away.
Wow. And
he just was not giving up. He was just like, "I'm coming up that trail. I don't care if you're standing in it or not. I'll just go through you." So, anyway, so the fishing game, they already knew about that, spread like wildfire, that story.
I'm sure.
But they said, "This is the first time that we've had a buffalo get somebody in the state of Utah and had to be killed out of self-defense." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry it happened on my watch, but
you live
what
in
are
the
you going to do?"
Enough,
I mean, you're back there enough, and things happen. It's just.
And you were okay.
Time. Yeah, I had a bruised spleen and some bruised ribs, but.
Did they fly you out too?
They did, although I said I wasn't going to, take a life flight ride as a patient because I didn't feel like I needed to. And they said, "Well, there's not a pilot. Just get in with the pilot and we'll just take you to the hospital." So that was nice of them, and I did. That was one of 3 life flights.
Yeah, you've been life flighted a few times.
Yeah.
3 in the last 5 years or something.
3 in 5 years. And it's the end. I'm not doing it again.
Right.
But I mean, you're in this business, and this is your lifestyle, and you're around horses, and.
But now you guys got
take your chances.
You got in reaches and everything too.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to you guys when you're on the mountain, I'm on the mountain. Like we can in reach. I'm in the Palisades talking to you guys in the Book Cliffs on the in reach.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So we're able to communicate and whatever.
Yeah, and on this last life flight, the last one, I was in the same camp.
Right, and the horse busted the hitching rail, right?
Right.
And the hitching rail broke your leg. Your
Right. Yeah, and it took them about an hour and a half to get there, but they found us. Yeah, they found us.
That's a long hour and a half.
Oh man. I'll
Yeah,
tell
me and
you
Randy,
what.
you know, we live flighted cub out of the Palisades too. Like,
Yeah.
when was that, Randy? That was 2022.
Something like that.
Yeah, just a
I've
couple
set
years
up
ago.
more LZs in Utah and Idaho with you guys than I did in a tour and a half in Iraq.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah, that was the deal. Randy, they called me on the radio, and Randy was in camp with the camp jack. They were, you know, and Gary was off with hunters, and I had a hunter, and get a call on the radio, and Jesse, you need to come back. It's like, it was Melanie. I get to the bottom of the canyon, and it's steep where I was, so I cut straight off. And the hunter gets off, and he walks, you know, get to the bottom, and she calls me on the radio again, and she's like, calling Gary to transmit to me because she couldn't talk to me. Gary's like, Jesse, she needs you to step it up. Like, Randy needs your help. So then I knew there was something going on, right? So I freaking started running. So I loped the horse all the way back to camp. And I get there, and Randy's like, Cub's horse cut bank caved on him, and his horse rolled over him. And he's in the tent. Well, he'd walked like
He walked, yeah.
2.5 miles back to camp with a separated shoulder and a
Leading his horse.
yeah, and a ruptured diaphragm, a split diaphragm. And it was a deal. So I went in there and took one look at him, and I called Doc on the phone. Doc, he just happened to answer. Why the satellite phone worked in the bottom of that canyon, for one thing, because that thing, the same one I've blown to you guys, it never worked.
Never worked. Those things
So
sound
it
like
worked. And I got Doc, and Doc answered the satellite phone, you know, and I'm like, look, we got a 3-hour ride out of here on good legs. Like, and between here and we get to the bottom, we don't got a lot of places to land a helo. Like Randy's saying, you know, he's like, and I went in there, looked at Cub, and he's like, I'm like, yeah. So I pushed the SOS button on my inReach, and you can ask Randy. From the time I pushed that button, we barely had time. Like, Randy was saddling mules so we could drag some pine trees out of the way. We went over there with a chainsaw, and he found a place for an LZ, and we cut it down, and Randy's like dragging these full trees out of the way. We dragged them up out of the way, and Randy got out there with a big roll of paper towels and made the H on the ground, and the helo was there like 20 minutes. Like,
Wow.
it was there, wasn't it, Randy?
He put his skids right down on the AOT that I set up.
Yep, it was a deal. But no, you're right though. The animals, and you know, just you remember where we was that night where you drop off that real bad ledgy spot where we took the wrong trail, and it goes back to the top
Leaving
of
the
July
glassing
Ridge.
spot going towards
Yeah, we're right up on top of that, right where that you turn to go to Golden Gate. Right there, I rode in between a sow grizzly and a cub.
Oh my goodness.
On cinch, just I was on cinch. I was going to the top to get some horse medicine because I had a horse colic, and I just got to the top out of Golden Gate, and I kicked it in the ribs, and we was trotting, and that horse plowed up into its dead stop and was going backwards as fast as it could go. And same thing when old cinch spun, my headlight hit it, and that sow bluff charged.
Oh my goodness.
I was trying to hold on to the horse and get the 44 out, and it was a train wreck.
You never run into animals in a good spot like that. It's always, a bad terrain or cliff face.
So, what do you think's in the future for Flying J?
Well, I'm pretty hard-headed. I'm gonna keep forging forward.
Well, you got to.
My dad would really love to see me hang it up. He really would, especially after being hurt, and it just seemed like once I got hurt, I was like every other year I got hurt, and these were major injuries, and so he's kind of like, when are you gonna quit doing it? And I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna, at least not anytime soon.
Well, it's been in your blood and in your family for so long.
That's the thing. I just have the hardest time, and some of it is that I don't want to give up because it was Grandpa's. And the other is, it's all I've done.
Right.
Like, what would I do? I know I can't work behind a desk or work at a Walmart. What am I going to do?
Well, and now you got Flying J Livestock, and you got, like I bought that horse or that mule that bucked you off.
Yep.
That year.
The one that broke my femur.
The one that broke your femur. I got Buckwheat. His name's Buckwheat.
Yeah, Buckwheat. Mm-hmm.
Man, he's the best back mule.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
a nice
great.
little-
That thing, you can take him anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, But like you said, I don't get on him, and I don't let anybody else get on him.
You know, he's a 90-10. 90% of the time, that's a great mule, and he's nice to ride.
Oh, he is
90% of the
beautiful,
time,
too.
but
He
that's
is. You
can chase him
10%.
down and
He keeps trying to talk me into riding.
Yeah, don't do it. Make sure he's on his 90% good day, because his 10% is bad, and he's bad when he's bad.
And Randy said when he blows, man, it's all there.
play.
Yeah, he's not.
So when Alysha, me and Randy got a story about this. So Randy calls me in the middle of the night. And it was about 10 o'clock at night, and he's like, Jesse, where you at? And I said, well, I'm at the ranch in Hondo. It's when I was living in South Texas. And he's like, Alysha just got bucked off a mule and broke her femur and had to life flight her out. And he's like, I can't get a flight. And I said, I'm on my way. So I went up. I had to drive 2 hours across San Antonio to get to the airplane because don't have lights on the Cub, right? So I can't fly over there. So I had to drive all the way through the city, you know. Takes forever. So I get over there, get in the airplane, I fly up. Where did I pick
You landed in Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I was working on a movie down there.
Yeah, so I land there, and me and Randy get in, and we take off, and he's like, so we're flying, and we cut across all the MOAs, and we get over to Tucumcari. And Randy's like, we're coming into land, and Randy's like, he looks at me, he's like, I've took off in a lot of small airplanes, but I've never landed in one before.
I never had.
So we landed.
Nervous?
No, not really, but we had a bad wind shear.
Yeah.
Like that windsock was standing straight out, so Jesse was aiming for over there. So we were, and I was like, oh, this is how it ends.
So we land there, get fuel, and we take off, and the density altitude, because it was like 108 degrees. Like getting the airplane, you took a lot of runway, so we had to get a runway. The airport had a lot of runway because, you get me and Randy in a 182
We're big guys.
and full of fuel.
Yeah.
And we just didn't take off from Tucumcari. We had to do some mechanicking.
Yeah. So we take off, and we're flying along, and we're headed to Monticello. We were going to stop in Monticello and get fuel, and we're headed across Cortez, Colorado. And we're just outside of Cortez, and we're like headed towards Monticello. And all of a sudden, this god-awful racket in the front of the airplane. And you can't see nothing under the cowling. And it's like, I just reached over and put direct to the next airport, and it was Blanding. And me and Randy go over there, because, the whirly thing in the prop and everything's still turning,
The whirly thing.
So we go over there, and I kept.
You were a mechanic.
It wasn't Tucumcari, it was there.
Yeah, this is where the mechanicking comes in.
Yeah, so this is where the
whirly thing
mechanicking
stopped
comes in.
whirling.
So I maintain altitude. We're staying high because I don't know when this thing's going to cut out. We might be turning this thing into a glider.
Yeah.
So we stay up like 9,000 feet, and we get right over top of Blandings Airport, and we're just circling down circling down where we can make the runway. We come across, and and the wind is just horrible cutting across that runway. And we come around, and I get lined up, and I told Randy, I said, strap your shoulder belts in and hang on, we're going to land this thing. And he's like, I'm filming.
I did. I videoed the thing.
And I had all of my, I was leaning into the wind, and I had all the rudder I had in the airplane in it, trying to hold it over the runway. And we actually landed, and you can hear in it as it touches down the right tire, and then it tips it over onto the other tire. And I landed on the left side of the runway because I couldn't hold it over the main part of the runway. And we landed and went over there, and the alternator had come apart.
Oh, man. That's a problem.
Yeah, we had to steal a plow truck and jump the airplane. And then, with no alternator and a running airplane, we got back in it.
Yeah.
And got airborne over the most unhospitable country in the state of Utah, right up the freaking Green River Canyon, where there's not a flat spot anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to think about what would happen if the engine stalls, because I know it ain't going to start again.
Yeah.
So I just thought about the buffalo that we were flying over and started planning a hunt. Like, we can.
And we got it started up. Once an airplane starts, they run off magnetos, and we just, I was born and raised in Utah. We just flew the Green River. We knew the Green River went to Roosevelt.
Yeah.
It's going to eventually take you there.
I was wishing I had my parachute.
We hit Highway 40 and flew up and landed in Duchesne.
And that's what any feller would do if he knew that
Terrain
his
Association.
sweet missus is sitting in the hospital bed with the busted femur. Yeah.
Yep. And Jesse, I wouldn't have got there for 2 days. There was apparently no flights out of Oklahoma going west for some reason at that time, and so I called Jesse, and he came and got me.
Yeah, he'd have never got there.
And it was a good adventure. Like every time Randy and I go somewhere, it's an adventure.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
Anytime me and Randy go somewhere, it's an adventure too.
I think it's Randy.
I don't know. Like I said, I've set up more LZs with you guys than I did in a tour and a half in Iraq.
Yeah.
And it was great.
So this is a question everybody has to answer. What makes a good mountain horse or pack mule?
What makes a good mountain horse?
What's your favorite?
Wet saddle blankets.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I do, and my grandpa did, and I've just carried it on because it works. Every colt we start our colts at 2, but we don't do much with them, and especially mule colts because they mature way slower than horses do. So then as 3-year-olds, we start packing them before we ride them. We pack them, and we take them to that rock pile, and we let them learn how to walk on that mountain in a string with a pack. They don't run you into trees afterwards.
Yeah.
They learn how to walk in a rock pile. And then you start riding them as 4-year-olds. And then they've got so much experience and they've done so much by the time that you get on them. It works for me. It's what we've always done. And I continue to do it. And it just seems to make really nice mountain horses.
Put everything allowed you have in camp on there.
I pack, and if you get the ones that are a little bit more goosey or the ones that are a little bit more want to run into stuff, I'll put hard boxes on them. And when they run into trees, then they can learn not to run into trees because that hurts them a little bit.
Yeah.
Then they don't run you into trees.
Yeah.
And it really works. It really works. They respect those trees and they get you around stuff and they don't knock you into things. And
Bob Lantis, who just passed away, had outfitter license number 1 in Yellowstone. He did that also. He would pack an animal before he'd ride it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works. It works good. Now, that's not the norm for. I mean, I wouldn't do that for roping horses or something that you're breaking for something else, maybe. But I don't know. Packing a colt just really teaches them a lot. They have to think things through on their own. There's not somebody on them to tell them how to think things through. They have to figure it out. And if they're tied in a string, they figure it out fast.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they learn how to carry a load, in unstable terrain, because us as riders, we're able to compensate. But when they're carrying a dead load, they have to compensate. So
and they learn, if they're tied to another horse, they'll learn not to go around trees the wrong way. They learn there's just a lot it teaches them.
Yeah. What's your favorite kind of pack saddle?
I'm a sawbuck girl myself. Although I do have a couple deckers. But I throw a hitch that nobody else throws. That came to me from my grandpa. And I think he learned it from my great grandpa. So it's a neat hitch. I really like it. It's you use your 60 feet of lash rope, but you split it in half. So I'm only dealing with 30 feet at a time. So I'm not having to pull that whole 60 feet all at once. And so I like using. I'm really fast with panniers, and I don't have the luxury that some of the Forest Service packers, they do mannies and they do deckers, but they've get all their stuff ahead of time. So they manny it all up the day before, get to the trailhead that day, pack it all up and go. Well, I don't have that luxury. Yeah. When I show up at the trailhead, so does my client. Right. They throw it all out in front of me and they say, "Here you go."
Yeah. It's like a yard sale.
It is.
And I've gotten pretty good to the point where I can look at that pile and be like, "You don't have enough horses for this. You're gonna have to take some of that out before you hit the trail." Because I do a lot of drop camps where they hike and I just pack their gear, and I can tell them if that'll fit on, how many horses it'll fit on. I've gotten, pretty good at it, but. So I like sawbucks. Although, I do have a couple deckers that I use.
I seen you use the first decker I've ever seen you use.
Yeah, I do.
In 2022, when you come up there, you had one, and I was like, shocked.
Yeah, but if you'll notice that decker that I have, it was my grandpa's, and he welded some little nipples on the top of it to where it's not a traditional decker. You know, the traditional decker has the bar that's a solid bar, to where you can hook your hooks into it, or you can just tie your manis on. And, you know, he welded those two little pieces on. So now you can use it for anything. You can either use it as a traditional decker, or you can hang your panniers on it. And I do like it because it has the half-breed. So then you've got your wooden slats down the side.
Right.
So now you can pack that harder stuff against that horse without running into their side. And so there are places that deckers are definitely handy, and I like the half-breeds, and so I do run a decker. But for what we're doing, I like sawbucks.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of your granddad's stuff?
I do, and I still use it. And some of it's so stinking old that it's
That's
just
cool,
I just
though.
keep repairing it, and I just keep using it.
Yeah.
I mean, my spurs that I wear on the mountain were my great grandpa's. I wear them every day.
Wow.
I have my great grandpa's bridle that I use. I just keep using it.
Yeah.
I figure, I mean, if it's still usable, why not?
Well, it's kind of, you get partial to stuff. Gets sentimental value, and you can't ever put it down, but yeah.
What's the most valuable thing he taught you?
Ooh, valuable, huh? He taught me a really good lesson when it came to the hunters that I had to learn. I still use it. And we kind of talked about it a little bit at lunchtime. I would get frustrated at these guys that would want these big bulls, and then they would get to this country in the roadless. And back then, we were hunting 380 class bulls, and consistent 350 with some 380 bulls thrown in. Let me put it that way. Now it's kind of dwindled down to some consistent 330s with some 350s thrown in. So it has kind of changed. But they would get there, and the first 6 point they'd see, they'd want to kill. And it's like, no. Do not kill that bull. We will get you a better bull. Yeah. And my grandpa had to teach me that it's their hunt. And if they are happy with what they kill, we are happy with what they kill. There's probably some bigger stuff and better stuff. And if that's, when we was talking about those lions, if that is something that they want, they're the ones who've paid the money for it. They've traveled this far for it. I had to learn that. Grandpa had to teach me that because I would just be like, why did you kill that little buck? Or, I wouldn't say that. In my mind, I'm thinking that, But if they're happy, we're happy.
Yeah.
And so I've had to tell my guides that now. At this point now, there's been several of my guides that I've had to say, listen, it's their hunt. If they're happy, we're happy. Because that's really what it's about.
You have to tell them all the time,
Yeah. So that was something that I remember learning from him. But I don't know. I just see some of these other guys at the trailhead that you just know it's going to be a train wreck when they head down that trail, and especially in the Book Cliffs, because it's just rough, rugged country down there. It's really rough country. If you don't know what you're doing, you can really get in trouble. And I just think to myself, thank you. Thank you for teaching me how to do this and do it safely. And we've got it down. We've got it down to a science where we can pull up to that trailhead and get packed up and be in there with 12 mules in no time, and
the drive out there used to be the worst part. Now they paved it.
Used to be the worst part. It was 100 miles from my house. And 80 of it was dirt, rough dirt, when I was a kid. It was a day getting out there. And now they've paved it to where it's 100 miles and 20 of it's dirt. But I'll tell you what, that last 20 is still rough.
Yeah, you better have chains. You better have two sets of chains and one set reserved. Because
we pack chains. My truck has chains in it at all times, and I know how to use them because I've had to use chains to get in and out of that country more than once.
Right, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's muddy, it gets soft, and it's done. Your grandpa, one of my fondest memories of your grandpa was he went on a trip with me. We were taking some guys into the Timothy Basin. And we, instead of going up from Swift Creek trailhead there, we went around and come in through Jackson Park.
Oh, yeah.
Across from Buffalo Creek.
Right.
And he always told me, don't camp too close to the creek, this, that, and the other thing. A bad storm come in. and we camped too close to the creek, and they were undercover. And he got a ticket.
Yeah.
And that was a valuable lesson to me that I learned. You know, that there was
There's undercover rangers and fish cops. Yeah.
Well, there used to be. There used to be. We've talked how the dynamics have changed. Well, it's changed within the Forest Service, within the BLM, all of them. It's it used to be where they actually cared. You know, they'd get in the ground, they'd ride, you'd see them. Shoot, not anymore. Not anymore. It's
well, now I know. I know in the Jackson Ranger District, the permit administrator was telling me the other day, you know, that they lost 63% of their people, like last month.
Yeah.
And Pinedale lost 85% of their workforce, all of the trail crews, and they're like, it's on the outfitters now.
Us too. Us too.
So I said, well, what's the difference now than then? Because the outfitters have always been the one that cut the trail.
Exactly. That's the thing.
We're the first ones in there because we're in there to make money and take clients. So who clears the trails?
You know what Grandpa said? I said this to Randy just yesterday, I think, and this has stuck with me forever. And he said this years ago. Outfitters use 2% of the Forest Service usage, but we get 100% of the regulation.
Yeah.
Because they have it over us. They can make us.
Yep.
You know, we're permittees. So.
Yeah. Well, you say thank you to your granddad, and I think Jesse and I and all these folks that are watching us would thank you for keeping it alive, keeping it going.
Yeah, for sure, and you're an inspiration
Yeah.
to a lot of people because
You're a hero.
You are one of the best packers I've ever been with, and
thanks.
And saying that you are a lady, you are tough.
Well, you got to be in this business, us thing. That's for
it's a
danger.
deal.
You got to be.
And
Georgie Sicking was in the Cowgirl Hall of Fame. She passed away probably 10 years ago, but she ranched and cowboyed all her life and roped wild Mustangs for fun. We were in Casey, Wyoming one time, and she told me, she said, I knew on those ranches I was working at, if I was going to get them to respect me as a woman, they'd have to respect me as a hand.
That's right.
And you remind me a lot of Georgie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. She's 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just walk the talk. You got to be able to talk it too. Yeah.
You're the real deal.
Thank you.
Folks, we thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Jesse, for bringing Alysha and Randy to us. We got another episode coming. Part 2 of this is the other half of this dynamic duo here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. If you want to hunt with Alysha and Randy or ride with them this summer, go to flyingjoutfitters.com. Drop them a line. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer your questions. And you can listen to my music at any of the streaming sites. Brenn Hill Music on social. BrennHill.com is my website. Go to saddlehornoutfitters.com to book a hunt with Jesse and his crew. And we got bear hunts coming up, so go check him out. And yeah.
And go to In the Wild Outdoors, drop us a message and share your history, your hunting stories. Ask any questions you want. Also, you can, message us on our YouTube channel. You and I've been trying to respond to everybody that comments on there too.
That's all for now, folks. Thank you.
Thanks.